Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Distinct Talks, where we're talking business outside politics. And we are honored this afternoon to be hosting Mr. Tony Otoa Jr., who has been the head of enterprise development at Stanbic Bank. The program has now been spun off into the Stanbic Business Incubator, with Tony as its first executive director, continuing the mandate to provide capacity building and development support to small and medium enterprises to enable them grow, expand, and flourish. Tony is at the forefront of developing an indigenous pool of skilled entrepreneurs that will be the drivers of this region's economies in the near future. In a little over 2 years, he and his team have graduated over 1,000 beneficiaries of the program, and most of them are already on track running sustainable businesses. So welcome very much, Mr. Tony, to the show as I introduce him. And thank you all very much, those who have joined us for this special edition as we talk to Mr. Tony Otoa. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, for accepting to be with us to have this conversation about business outside politics. We specifically called you because of the amazing job you're doing with the incubator, where you're graduating a lot of young people into amazing business people, expanding their businesses, but also improving on their organizational systems. Today's conversation is very much going to focus on how are we helping young people to not only play politics, but also have enterprises that give them an income. So this session, as usual, is powered by the Christian Democratic International Center, which is a party foundation based in Stockholm, running programs across Latin America, Eastern Europe, and East Africa. So we are glad to have you today. I just want to give a small context of our conversation. The UN Economic Commission of Africa reported that corruption swallows at least 140 billion amongst the AU member states every year. Most of this money, which is lost, is meant to be invested in infrastructure projects that are meant to make business easy and make it easy for people to start businesses across the continent. But when you also look at our politics, it seems like every young person who is joining politics is because they think there's money to make. There's easy money to make, it is easy to get rich. And a lot of the times, of course, it is not very clean money because those who get rich so fast are doing some dubious businesses. But the conversation I want to have with you today, Tony, is how do we move? How do we help young politicians to understand that outside politics, you can have investments and enterprises that can facilitate your ability to be a good leader, make legitimate money, and accumulate good wealth, and also be helpful to society. I brought you on board because you're working across with a lot of young people across the region, and I'm going to throw it to you. Where do they start from? Young people are so used to the patronage system where, the party leader pays your rent, the party leader pays your transport. And I think it is high time we help them move away from this kind of space and help them start their own enterprises and make legitimate money. Tony, how do they start? Where do they start? And what advice do you have for these amazing young people across the region?
Thank you very much, Emmy, for having me, and thank you so much for giving me this platform to be able to speak about some of my ideas and my experiences within the business development world, but also within the entrepreneur world. I'll begin with some caveats, though, before we continue this conversation. One, I am not a political person, so I'm not going to speak anything political. If you expected me to speak politics, I'm sorry, this is probably not the show where you're going to hear any politics coming from me. That is one. But also two, I want to skew our conversation more to the development of young people to be able to build sustainable businesses, businesses that can go beyond politics, but also to understand that for them to be more viable or effective in their communities, they can use alternatives away from politics. And I think that is something that's very key. But before I start, I'll just begin with a story. Over the weekend, I was in Lira at my farm, and I remember speaking with a few young people at the trading center about what's going on and what they would want to see in the next few months and so on and so forth. And what was very clear from them is many of them were looking forward to the political or the campaign cycle. Okay. Now we all know that COVID, of course, has interrupted a lot of the political calendar. But for many of the young people, I think it's also an opportunity. You know, whenever election cycle comes around or campaign cycles, it's an opportunity to make some quick money and, you know, see ways of getting themselves busy within their communities or constituencies. But what I found very disturbing is the failure to understand or correlate the need with them becoming their own entities or their own business people or their own business enterprises or creating enterprises that can actually help them grow. Now, what's very key and what I really want us to understand is giving the context of Uganda. Uganda is probably one of the most entrepreneurial or is the most entrepreneurial country in the world. This is I don't know if the rankings have changed in the last few months or years, but Uganda was and has always been seen as a very enterprising country.
Yeah.
The bulk of the businesses that are created every day are youth-led businesses, you know, young people going out there, opening up businesses and enterprises and trying their best to grow them as much as they can. Now, if you think about the number of small and medium enterprises in Uganda, today we have over 180,000 or between 160 to 180,000 small and medium enterprises. They employ so many young people. They have an impact on so many livelihoods of the young people, the youth, the people that we're trying to tap with this kind of conversation. But they also, account for 90% of the private sector. Now, 90% of the private sector, that's a huge number of people of businesses you're talking about.
Yeah.
But coupled to that as well is the type of people that they're employing. Now, again, Emmy, I want us to be very cognizant of the fact that the youth are a huge percentage in regard to the population. You know,
Yeah.
if you think about the number of young people out there, I mean, I was talking to a few guys over the weekend again about a young man I had seen 5 years ago who was about 13, and now he's of voting age, very critical. Now, imagine how many of those guys are going to be in the system in the next election cycle. But these guys need employment. So how are we dealing with the issue of productivity vis-a-vis employment and the problems or solutions for a lot of these young people? So I think for me that's very, very key. Now, while it's true that we are an entrepreneurial country, the failure rate of businesses daily is also huge. And that so many businesses are failing on a daily. And why are they failing? They're failing because they failed to put in place bulletproof systems or support systems that can bulletproof or support their businesses to be more resilient, more sustainable, and again, more attractive to anyone who wants to work with them. Now, the reason why people choose politics, and again, I do not blame anyone for going into that. That's their own personal opinion or conviction.
Yeah.
The only misfortune in this whole discussion, or in this whole concept of politics vis-a-vis business and how young people can actually survive, is we have commercialized politics. So politics has stopped being about humanity, about support to your community, but it's about, can I get in and amass as much as I can so I can live a good, happy, fancy life? Now, you can still do that, by the way, without joining politics. I know of leaders who control politics without necessarily being politicians. Let's think about the international scene. Is Bill Gates a politician?
No.
Does has he stood for any political office? Is George
No.
Bezos anywhere around that? George Soros, is he anywhere around that? Uganda. Think about the political. Think about the guys who are running business here and there. You know, think about the likes of the Mulwanas. Are they politicians? Think about the Sudirs. Think about the Bitatures. Think about the. You can influence society, humanity, have a positive impact on humanity without necessarily going into politics. But how do you build an enterprise that will outlive you, so that that impact does not only die with you, but with the generations to come can enjoy that impact? And I think that for me is where this conversation should be going.
But
How do we get a guy to move away from I am going to my prospective MP's house to get rent or to get money because my wife is sick, to being the kind of guy who will say, how about I churn out this 100,000 shillings, double it, triple it, and find a way of making it work for me. That is the mindset.
So, Tony, don't you have, I've also had a couple of people who think that I'll go into politics, amass as much wealth as I can as soon as I can, get out of it, and then start business. Some of them think maybe this is also a source of capital because they think the outside, finding money outside seems to be a problem.
Emmy, let me give you what I would love to call the inconvenient truth, right?
Yeah.
I know many people who have left politics, including my own father, by the way, who left politics and decided to jump into business. It was disaster because he did not understand business. He was a military man with a military career, went into politics. After politics, by the way, as a member of parliament, he was saving a lot of money. But what happened as soon as he jumped out of politics? Boom. And this is a personal experience, so I'm not really going around with different ideas and notions that I don't understand. This is a personal experience. It is just the same way that anyone who has been saving so much of their pension and so on and so forth come out and have no idea of what to do with that money.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, because John is sorting up a fish farm, you also want to sort up a fish farm. You don't understand the dynamics of the fish farm, how to feed the fish, the market, and so on and so forth. Because Opio is sorting out a bar, you also assume that you can also run a bar because everyone wants to have entertainment or everyone wants to enjoy that. There are so many dynamics to business. Yeah. First and foremost, what are the key challenges to business? I mean, why do people find it hard to sustain businesses? Yeah, that is where you need to start from. Now, one, going back to just what we've been talking about, the lack of an entrepreneur attitude. How does an entrepreneur think? Now, in my opinion, by the way, if you are able to go and bench at your prospective MP's place for a whole week waiting for him to come back and give you some money, you are a good entrepreneur because you can sustain your waiting for the actual money. You understand?
Yes.
So you see, to be an entrepreneur, you need to be able to be resilient. Understand that in your first 2, 3, 4 years, you might not actually make money. Yeah. Our problem with the young people right now is people want to make money immediately. They don't want to go through the process. And again, I don't want to generalize, but I would always say that let us enjoy the process. I don't want someone to come to me. He has just graduated from Makerere University, expects to have a 2-bedroomed house, a car, and yet Opio has gone through 15 years of out of university building and going through the process to have that today. The process is important. You understand?
Yes.
And young people need to appreciate that. I will tell you my own personal experience. First of all, after leaving high school, I never went to university for about 6 years. I hustled. I lived I lived in the UK washing cars, working in a kitchen, and all of these things, to getting back again into university and understanding why it's important and up to where I am. That is the process I'm talking about. Do I have any issues with that process? No, I appreciate it because it is what has taught me and molded me with the experiences of what living in our typical African society in Uganda means. So entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial attitude for me is very key. What is your mind thinking?
Tony,
yeah.
So how do I get this attitude? Because, sometimes some of us have been brought up in families where, things are easy. Maybe things were good when I was growing up. It was never important to get that attitude because I got everything. Now then you have politicians. We have these young politicians who get this seasonal money. There's a campaign. They are given campaign money. So they have a saving. How do I get that attitude before it is too late?
It's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift. In Uganda, what the Baganda always consider or have the best story for that kind of paradigm change is Omuvubi, a fisherman, a Sento's Omuvubi. You understand? A fisherman gets his money today from the shows. In less than a week, it's all done. By the way, they make so much money. But it's again back to your paradigm, your attitude towards money. How do you manage your finances? So again, financial management, business skills, and the networks that young people have should be able to support them in understanding that. So who are you hanging out with as a young man? If I want to do business, why am I hanging around people who are waiting for political campaigns just like me? How will that make me grow intellectually or in terms of my desire or paradigm to focus on what's good for me or what's better for the future in terms of sustainability? But again, also the reason why many young people fail at business is because many of them go into business without planning. So you do not know the kind of business you're going into, so lack of business plans and financial records. So if you wanted to get financial support or you wanted someone to come in and support you as a partner, it's very difficult for you to articulate that because you do not have these records in place and your business planning is actually not evident. A lot of the businesses I've interacted with, the businesses that we have trained, and just to let you know, we have trained close to 700 businesses. We have trained more than 1,600 entrepreneurs in the span of 2 years. The bulk of them never had business plans. They actually do not even know what business planning is about. So you're getting into business ad hoc, kagwirao, yeah, kagwirao, you know. So again, that political mindset of Honorable Salongo is going to give some money here. Let me go and eat kagwirao. That money goes just the way you've got it. You understand? Because there's no proper planning for it. There's no advisory in terms of how you intend to use it. So it becomes a challenge. You get? So that becomes another area where a lot of young people fail when it comes to their businesses, but also the limited and insufficient financial resources. For instance, why should Otoa struggle yet is failing to get money from an entity to finance him for his business? And yet there's an MP who has said, come with me, help me translate some of this material for the local guys and just do for me Kakuyege and I'll give you the equivalent. Well, that could be a business, but for how long? Because remember, it's just a campaign cycle. It only happens 8 months out of 5 years. Okay. So what happens in the remaining 4 years and 4 months? You know, what are you spending your time on? So again, for me, it's about sustainability. Do you have a sustainable model or mod that can actually support you to be an efficient business? Now, that is very important. But again, the reason I'm saying this is I want us to first deal with the issues, the problem, because for us to talk about the good things and to say what the youth should do is completely irrelevant if we are not open with one another.
Hey, Tony, are you there?
This is why this is very, very crucial. Culture that supports business contracts, you know, do we have a culture that supports entrepreneurship in this country? And again, I also think it's really incumbent on the government to really be able to support a lot of the young businesses out there because these young people have great ideas, but probably do not know how to exploit those ideas. And again, now this is where we come in because our programs at the Business Incubator are very much focused around young people as well. You know, we are saying, how can we support you to be able to grow your businesses in a more sustainable manner? That for me is a good story, you know. And again, hand holding them.
But Tony, you still even when they come to your center, you want those who have started something. You're not looking for somebody who is wondering, do I need to start business? You want somebody who has started something. So the message still goes out to the young politicians and the young leaders. Start something. That's when people will give you support. That's when somebody will come and say, oh, you're doing a good thing. Why don't you take it this direction?
Yeah, Emma, I'll just tell you something interesting. I don't know if you know a young guy called Tony Kidega in Gulu. Tony Kidega is a personal friend. He runs Gulu Dairy Farm. That guy, if you've been to that farm, you'll actually think you're out of Uganda. Now, Kidega is not a politician. He's never benefited from any political campaign or whatever money. But what he has managed to do has been able to influence his community, has been able to impact on his community. He's employing so many women and youth to run that farm, to grow food for the animals, to grow coffee, to grow. I mean, it's a crazy thing that I would, if I were a youth, I would personally want to run and work for Kidega because one, I am earning money, which is the same money that I would probably earn from a politician, but also two, I'm learning a skill. You see, now the skill, no skill. I mean, a politician will not give you a skill. A politician will just simply tell you or show you how to campaign. But again, if he loses, the probably is the wrong way. If he wins, the probably is the right way. But again, how does that have an impact on you in the long term, in a sustainable way? So I think for me, identifying with the right champions or the right mentors is important. It's key. Yeah. Kidega is just one of those very amazing people who, in my opinion, I find very interesting when it comes to how he can impact on the young people.
Yeah.
Then there's another youth program I support and I have visited, and I actually visited last week in Bushenyi. It is a youth project which, if you went there, you'll be amazed. These young people go and work voluntarily on the farm. It's a farm that does dairy, horticulture, piggery, and now they're setting up agribusiness or agrotourism and all of this. The youth work there for 3 to 6 months. And when they are leaving, the sectors that they have been supporting, for instance, you've been working in the piggery, you go out with about 4 amazing piglets that help you sustain and grow your business wherever you're going. Now, the beauty about that program is that while they're volunteering, they're learning. You see, they're learning how the market works, who the market is, the kind of feeding, the kind of processes for taking care of these animals, and so on and so forth. But most important of all, they are learning how to run a business.
So I mean,
So politics,
Tony, what I'm
yes,
also hearing is that you're a young politician, you're a young leader. You have a free weekend. Move around, see what people are doing. Check out people's farms.
yes,
Check out people's businesses. Pick 1 or 2 things to inspire you to start something of your own.
Emma. When you, what are you doing weekend? COVID has kind of slowed us down in the sense that we have to be home all the time. But before COVID, what do most people or young people like to do with their weekend? It's either football, it's either sports, it's either something else. Well, if it's earning money and it's making money, well and good. But if it's not earning money, then there's a problem. Now, our biggest challenge as a country is betting, sports betting. All right. Now, the challenge with the sports betting situation, Emmy, are you there? Hello, Emmy.
Hello?
Emmy. Okay. So, Emmy,
Yes.
let me proceed. Okay.
Yes.
So, I
Yeah.
was saying earlier, our biggest challenge as a country or as a nation is the issue of sports betting. Now, I speak from a personal point of view. During my university years in the UK, I was a manager at one of the betting shops called Ladbrokes. The challenge and the situation within that was it was only the people who seemed to want hope who would come into those shops to bet in the hope of earning something more. You
Yeah.
never see the rich and affluent people coming in to spend their money on betting and so on and so forth. This is the problem that has come into our communities, our societies, especially with the young people. So the idea of looking out for business long term has kind of been eroded by the opportunity to make money quickly.
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
go to many of the shops that I know around here, and the first thing, even my barber shop, the guys are talking about their betting options. You know, that for me is a problem. But imagine if they were using that energy and research on which team is going to win or which team can beat the other. By the way, the research that the young people do when planning on where to place a bet is quite amazing. So, this time they played with this player, but this time he's not around. Imagine the research is amazing. If that effort was actually placed in running their own enterprises, then there could be a massive change. And I think these are some of the things that we need to be discussing about some of these social activities that have come into play or whatever activities that have come into play that are actually not being effective in the way our young people are dealing with themselves and their lives. You
But,
see?
Tony, what I mean in this entire conversation, what really worries me is the shortcut. That people don't want the process. People want to live a good life. They want to make the good money. So even those who are going into politics, they are saving up money to just buy voters. They are saving money to just
Emmy.
buy the vote. And there's a bigger problem across this continent that we need to deal with. The first lane kind of thing that young people are following.
Yeah, Emmy, it's unfortunate, and it's rather unfortunate. You know, life has been challenging for many people. that the quickest way out of that rat race or rat hole has to be the easiest. I mean, you always have to look out for the easiest way. The only problem with that is that easy or the quickest way does not signify the best solution to your to coming out of the problem. Have you actually solved the real long-term problem? We have been fed on, again, for the young people, we have been fed a lot on the popular culture, the pop culture, what's cool, celebrity culture, when someone has money in town and you haven't seen him or never known about him 2 years ago, 1 year ago, that becomes your idol. You want to live like that guy because he's driving a fast car. Then when the guy disappears after two years, you don't even question to find out why he disappeared. You now also want to find out the next guy to inspire you to be like. You see, even the Bible says it's the works of your hands that will actually bring a lot into your basket. When you talk about wanting the shortcuts, yes, there could be shortcuts, but are they as helpful to you in the long run? And again, this is something that we need to move away from. Now, politics, like you've said, for many might seem like a shortcut, but it is sad if our forefathers who understood politics as a way of serving society, community, understand it or have a reflection on what we think about it today. So for me, I think I can see people who can create a massive positive impact in their communities, in their societies, without getting into politics. And again, I'm not saying do not get into politics. That is your choice. And like I said in the beginning, I'm not talking about politics here or anything politically affiliated. I'm just saying, as an individual, you must be able to create a sustainable income that can sustain you in so many ways. But anyway, let's just go back to politicians themselves. Emmy, you deal with politicians and you've been dealing with politicians for the last 20 years. How many politicians do you know who retire from politics and have amazing businesses to talk of that can sustain them for a certain period of time?
It's a disaster. I mean, when they're thrown out of parliament, they go back to zero.
So when they're thrown out of parliament, they go back to zero. And what is their next ambition? To go back to parliament. But you see, again, if I were a politician, I think I would not only use my role to support my people that I'm legislating for, but I would use that as an opportunity to network. To network in the sense that my life has to be seen beyond politics. But again, it's about what structures and businesses you're building along the way that can sustain and produce that or give you that. And for the young people, I think the beauty about our country is that in terms of entrepreneurship, the opportunities are many. I was in Lira. I came back yesterday and I was interacting with some farmers who are doing sunflower, some farmers who are planting a lot of shea or doing stuff out of shea nuts and shea butter. And I was amazed that these guys actually save more and have more money than people in the city. Now, this is in a rural setting or this is in a regional setting, not in the city. So the question now here that comes for me is, what is it that we are not demonstrating very well to the young people? What is it that probably our forefathers, the generations before did not explain to us probably well about how or what it takes to run or support or be around communities in terms of politics and so on and so forth? So maybe there's a missing gap, and that now comes back to you and your organization. Maybe this is where you're going to have to come in and say, this is what you can do to support the paradigm shift. But more so is the question of how can we create enterprises that are so strong, that have an impact on societies. I was speaking with my father a couple of days ago, and he was telling me the stories of the cooperatives back in the day. Emmy, these cooperatives, one thing that you need to know is, one, back in the day, they were run by young people. Young people. My father was running a cooperative at the age of 23, right? These are guys who were running efficient businesses at the time. And if you think about any of the cooperatives, Acholi Cooperative or Bugisu Cooperative Union or Lango or whatever, or that was is it the Ankole one? They were so strong and run by young people. These people were not politically minded, but influenced politics. You understand? So they were running enterprises that influenced politics. So again, back to the whole idea of business development and business planning and business, how to run a business entity. How do you run a business entity? Our time today, or our period today, by young people is spent in failing to even understand how to run a business. A young man sets up a business, but the idea behind the business is to really live a fancy life and enjoy himself, drive a car with the latest number plate. That is not how you run a business. You see, what COVID has taught so many businesses today is managing your costs in the next 1 year is going to be the most crucial thing. COVID has taught us that. So you're going to have to let go of the luxurious life. You're going to have to let go of the luxurious things that you've been indulging with using your business money so that your business can stay afloat. Now, I don't know if you saw a report that came out from financial sector deepening Uganda. It stated that in the first week or so of a lockdown or the lockdown, over 60% of Ugandans would not be able to sustain their lifestyle.
The first week.
First week. After 3 weeks, less than 20% can manage to sustain their lifestyle. So if you're youth and you're listening to this, ask yourself, which margin do you fall? Because that becomes now a question of, are you running your business to run it in terms of legacy, or you're running it to sustain your lifestyle? People like the Mulwanas, if you see and understand their storyline, they were never living about their lifestyle. It wasn't about a lifestyle. So coming up and showing you Boto parties and all these things that we youth tend to like nowadays, or white sons party in governor and so on and so forth to show that you have money. These guys were humble and grew empires.
Tony, it's difficult to be humble in this generation when you have some money, because there's lots of things that hold us, and then you're excited about having them. So I think it's quite difficult for young people in this generation.
Well, I hope that Corona has proven to us in so many ways that your perception of me is not really important. I think if I know and have or value what I do and value myself, that's what's most important. That's number one. But also two, I don't have to go out of my way to prove myself to anyone. My works should be able to make that talking for me or speak for me. You see, now if you're running a business and you have a product that is amazing, that product should be able to speak to the customer or the end user, and that end user should be able to refer to that customer or refer that product to his other friends, and on and on and on. I don't have to have you come and tell me so much about why I need that product and why, because it speaks for you. But all of that is from understanding how to run your business, understanding your product, understanding why it is important for you to run that product. This idea of a business guy coming up, Emmy, you have an MTN mobile. You remember that time when there were mobile money kiosks everywhere? Now, for many of the guys who are not youth, let me just remind you of the time when we were growing up in the early 2000s, when every place had a phone booth. Remember those phone booths where you pay 200 shillings to make a call or 300 shillings to make a call? Yeah, everyone, just because Opio is doing it, Otoa wants to do it, Nalongo wants to do it, everyone was doing the same thing without having an idea of how to run it. Today, all of those are obsolete. The same guys never probably even thought of the next business idea. Then everyone jumped onto mobile money. No one has understood how to make it sustainable for themselves. You see, business, and especially for young people, it's important for you to research, understand, as in understand what you're dealing with, understand your market, but more so, by the way, understand your market, because that's the beginning of everything. Before you come out to do a business, before you come out to do a product, who are you making it for? What problem are you trying to create a solution for? Yeah? You understand? Then from understanding the problem, then the solutioning makes sense. You now work backwards. You know what I like about Steve Jobs when talking about Apple? And again, Apple is an amazing entity. If you think about it, simplicity. Simplicity. When he was asked what is the magic about Apple, he just said, no, we just decided to go back to the people and just give them what they want. On the other hand, Nokia, and Emma, you remember we were the happy Nokia guys with the Nokia phones. It was the biggest brand. No one knew of Samsung. No one knew about, I think it was probably Nokia and Motorola at the time, but Nokia was on top.
Yeah.
Nokia fell to its knees. And when the CEO was asked what happened, he only had one word. He said, we did nothing. We assumed everything was okay. We did nothing. So complacency, you understand? Huh? Because you're moving well, things are happening well, your product is moving well. Trust me, there are 100 guys who are looking at you and competing and wanting to be better than you. So they're innovating, they're not sleeping, they are working hard. So again, that for me would be the best way to get out of this political rat race and get yourself to doing getting yourself around ideas that are more sustainable for yourself, for your community, for your country, and again, having or creating impact and value for yourself as an individual.
But Tony, if you also think about it, if you go on social media across the continent, some of the most amazing social media people are young politicians. They know so well to use it for politics. Imagine if they transfer that to use it for business and trying to market some of the stuff that they're doing. I mean, I think it would be a good just combination and move from using your social media for politics, but also for marketing.
Emmy, again, I don't want to really comment much about young people on social media. I don't know if you saw my Twitter today. I was totally disappointed in the way young people are using social media platforms, because you see, social media is the best way to sell your brand as an individual. What you communicate on there is very essential. You understand? But young people have failed to realize that that is a very powerful tool. So what do they post on there? A lot of useless stuff that does not actually help them. I have
Tony, are you there?
I've seen very many interviewers say that before they interview you, they will have a look at your social media to have an understanding of the kind of person that you are. That is shocking. And you see, many young people do not know this important fact. Let me tell you in terms of business how social media is crazy. The businesses we have transformed at the Business Incubator will tell you that by going digital, using the social media platforms, they've managed to sell more. Some of them have even decided to leave the business premises where they were situated to actually operating from home and still making double the money that they were making and saving more money than they were saving. So I think for me, it's about how you use social media platforms for that case. For young politicians, I think they act as ambassadors to rally young people along these lines. If only we had just about 100 young politicians, vibrant, going on and forgetting about political divides, but talking about how we can rise as a country. Because you see, whatever political party comes into place, if we haven't galvanized when it comes to the things that take care of us on a daily, it's almost no work done. You know, one entity will come and blame the other one for what got messed up, and then the other one will, and it'll just be a cycle. But I think for me, it's about the politics that speaks to people coming out to better their communities, their regions, their countries in a very practical manner. And I guess for me, localized business solutions by the local young people is very powerful as a tool. And that, if you use that, your communities are stronger in terms of financial resilience, your systems are stronger, and you start talking about the critical things that lead to productivity. Health. Health becomes important because for you to be able to be productive, you have to be healthy. So issues of health come to the core. Issues of youth and women, you know, what we had always referred to as the marginalized become important, because in my perception, and I will be very honest with you, I find women more productive than men. I'm sorry for saying that, but I find women more productive than men. And mine is personal, because you see, on my farm, I work with more women who are more enthusiastic, They're amazing at saving, and they understand what it takes to work for the future. So they work a lot for the children, as compared to the men who unfortunately love to spend more time drinking in the afternoon. Now, what really bothers me every time I'm in Lira is the impact of alcohol on the young people. You know, people begin drinking at 9 a.m. Young people, you know, and the politicians, in my opinion, are not reinforcing the discussion on such issues, because that becomes very key. But if I, as Otoa, went and set up a project over there, I think part of my other programs would be to kind of make the young people understand that there are better ways to live your life than waking up in the morning to drink. That is impacting your community without getting into politics.
But also, Tony, Tony, what you're saying also is that, young politicians have followers, and a lot of the times the followers imitate you. So if I go and start a farm as a young politician, it's likely that people who follow me would begin to believe that, starting a business is a good thing. So young politicians have no option. You need to inspire young people by starting up enterprises so that we can economically empower those who follow us.
Indeed, indeed. I actually think young politicians can do very much in inspiring. You see, everyone looks up to their leader. Yeah. When you see your leader doing something interesting, you always want to know how he did it, and you want to affiliate with that story. When your leader lets you down and you see him doing something that is off, equally, you are forced to resign from him and think of other ways of supporting any other person or any other entity. So what I'm trying to say here, Emmy, is the young leaders have an opportunity here, but they can start with working around policies that support these young people to be able to engage in meaningful businesses. If they're getting engaged in jobs, it has to be meaningful jobs. I do not aspire to have a discussion on, for instance, saying, oh, we've created jobs in these factories for these young people. Okay, but are they meaningful jobs? You understand? Are they meaningful jobs? Are they jobs that support these guys in ways that, one, when they go to work, they have the right personal protective equipment, or they have the right social security platforms that can support them in the future? These are the critical things, because they then have an impact on the other people that this youth takes care of or represents within his community. And the moment you start...
And I hear you that, yes, we can say I've created jobs, but what is the value and the quality of the job? How much integrity does it give the worker? But can I use the job, for example, to get a loan? Because a lot of people have jobs. Everyone has jobs, but no, they have no terms of reference. There's no security at the job. You can be sacked any day. So we are not just talking jobs. We need jobs that add value to your ability to access financing elsewhere.
Exactly. And that's the reason why when we are training businesses, we really focus on creating sustainable businesses. Creating sustainable businesses that understand the importance of, one, taking care of their manpower. You see, without manpower in your business, or without taking care of your manpower, you're pretty much riding, it's like riding a donkey without giving it food, right? It will not be as productive as possible. So I think for us, what we're trying to do is to really create sustainable businesses. Now, the businesses can be as sustainable as they are or can be, but what's also key is they have to have an impact on the societies that they operate in. Now, again, the impact can only be felt through a mass like the youth, because you see, the youth are many. They are the most formidable, employable group within that community, but also they are your ambassadors. So when we take on those good practices, going through that, when a young man is engaging with his politician, he knows what to ask for. It's more meaningful. It's more sustainable. It's a solution that speaks not just to localized politics of saying we shall do this, we shall do that, but to solutions that are practical in terms of his life.
So that means if a politician comes to young people to ask for votes, then it becomes easier to say, mechanize our farming system, and then we are going to support you. Mechanize our farm.
Not only that, but also can you have an impact on creating good business working environments for us to be able to grow and sustain our businesses as young people, you know? Because you see, that for me is a more sustainable approach to this political story as compared to our man. Then after the election day, our man disappears and then you're left as your own man. You understand?
He starts driving tinted vehicles. But Tony, now as we do a wrap up,
Yeah.
some pointers, young people, small capital, where should they start looking if they need to start going into enterprise development? What kind of direction pointers do you give them? These are the areas that where you can make a good return. These are areas that can be sustainable.
Right. You know, Emma, I won't lie. I have no silver bullet for that. I will not lie that I have the best solution. But I will just say that from experience, I think what COVID has taught me is that agriculture is the best way to go. You see, agriculture has two forms. So you have agriculture where you're on the farm. Yeah, you're digging, you have land, you're digging, you're making, producing all of these crops and everything and so on and so forth. Then you have agriculture, which is now agribusiness, where it is from farm gate to the consumer, right? If there's ever a time that I've seen these two areas grow, I think the last 3 months has really proven, you know. I've had chicken delivered to me from almost 20 kilometers away from here, amazing chicken for very low price. This is an enterprise run by a young guy, you know, who I found off social media. You understand? He's making deliveries every week to households around Kenya. This is a guy who had never done this before. He had a proper job. As a matter of fact, when they were delivering 2 days ago, 3 days ago, he was saying he was apologizing for not having delivered himself because he's trying to get himself back to work and organize work. And I said, but now you're making more money than work. Why are you, you know? And you see, he finally realized that there's potential in that enterprise. Did it start with a lot of money? No. Sometimes it's about how you do things. I've seen enterprises start with a lot of money and in no time have fallen. And then you have those that have started with a great idea, have been or remained consistent, have had the best customer care and service, and have really grown crazily. So I think that is one thing that is important. But I think more so, agribusiness now becomes really key. You see, Emma, you can choose not to wear that t-shirt or buy a new t-shirt until Christmas. That is your choice. But you see, there are no choices when it comes to eating food or having food on your table. That one you have to have every day. You can choose to have it once a day. That is your problem, or that is your solution. But you'll have at least food on your table. So that becomes a need that cannot be that you can walk away with. So I think for me, if you have some money and you're a young guy and you want to get into this, I think agriculture would be quite interesting to get into. If you wanted to get into something more credible, I think it's also acquiring the skills that can put you into the oil and gas sector, which is going to be one of the biggest sectors in the few months to come. I know of about 20 youth who I supported to get onto a training program for welding. They are welders now. They are certified welders, and trust me, Emmy, these young men formed their own company. I've brought on other guys on board to run that company with them. They are registered under the National Supply Database of the Uganda Petroleum, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. These guys were nothing. They were not welders at all. They were just your Juakali welders who we rallied. Today, they have a company that can do 1G welding, 2G coded welding, 3G, all the way up to 4G coded welding, meaning they are ready to work on the oil and gas sector. These guys, in less than a year, can transform the lives of many people in a bit. I mean, just to give you a simple idea of what a welder earns in the oil and gas sector. When I was in Angola, a welder who works for only 6 months a year, because it's 1 month off, 1 month on, 1 month off, 1 month on, was earning close to between 5,000 to 6,000 US dollars a month. Now you do the maths. These young people, it's an easy skill. Again, as young people, we have tended to ignore the tertiary institutions, you know. If I tell you about the oil and gas sector, which probably we'll speak about sometime in the future, When you think about the manpower that will be needed, less than 1% of the manpower are your guys like you, me, people who have been to university with masters and all this blah, 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 blah. About 13% are your engineers, the guys who are, engineers and so on and so forth, technical guys. 25% are your juakari, the guys who have never been to school, unskilled labor. Okay? All they have to have is just a certificate in health and safety, and they're good to go doing, manual work here and there. But did you know that 60% of the manpower required for the oil and gas sector are your technicians, your technical guys from technical colleges like Chugumba, you have there are many of these technical institutes. Nakawa, for instance, Nakawa Vocational Technical Institute. You have, there's so many of them. Nile Vocational Institute. Those are the guys who are going to be needed massively in the oil and gas sector. Now you think about it. Those are the guys who are going to create a lot of economic transformation in this country, and those are youth, young people. So this comes back now to the topic today, come back to the topic today. Why should I be running around a politician, whatever? Yet I can prepare myself to jump onto those crazy opportunities where I can make far more money than a politician would give me in 5 years, in a month. Yeah.
So young people,
that is the paradigm shift.
Young people must start their businesses. And thank you very much, Tony, for getting the time to come and talk to us. And it was a real honor hosting you today, being the first person to host you as the new boss of the incubator. So thank you very much for sparing the time.
Thank you very much.
And talking to us.
Thank you.
Have a splendid day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. It was amazing having Tony Otoa talking to us about the opportunities that exist across this country. And he's encouraging young people. Agriculture and agribusiness is the way to go. There are opportunities there. So apart from just following your politician and putting up posters, find something to do in between elections. He has mentioned things to talk about mentorship. Find somebody that you can look up to. He has talked about a paradigm shift. Get an opportunity and think different. But he's also saying, do things that impact society. As a young politician, as a young leader, try to find things that impact on the people that follow you and the people that listen to you. And hang out with the right crowd. Try to hang out with people who are doing businesses so that you pick one or two things. Have a business plan, and the opportunity is coming all your way. This conversation was powered by the Christian Democratic International Center, the Swedish Party Foundation that is running programs across Eastern Europe, Latin America, and East Africa. We are very glad for those who are able to join us. It was a good conversation, and we hope that you'll pick something as young politicians to go and start doing something for yourselves and making sustainable businesses available to your communities and the people that follow you. I was your host, Emmy Otim. This was the Stink Talks. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We are talking about business outside politics. Have a splendid day. And bye-bye.